next section, we're going to look at graphing quantitative data. And we're going to start out, before we actually start making any graphs, by dividing distributions into quartiles and finding the 5-number summary. First vocab term we have is a quartile. Now, a quartile is a quarter or a fourth of a distribution. So if you break any group into the first fourth, the second fourth, the third fourth, and the fourth fourth, each of those represents a quartile. A minimum, often called the min, is the smallest number. So if you have a big list of numbers and 2 is the smallest number, then 2 would be the minimum. The maximum, I'm going to skip down to the bottom, is just as you would expect, the largest number in a distribution. So if you have a big list of numbers, the maximum is the largest. Skipping back up, the median is the number in the middle. So whenever you have a list of numbers, whatever number is in the middle, after you put the numbers in order, is going to be your median. So it doesn't matter how big or small the numbers are, it's just which one is located in the middle of the list. When you cut the list in half into the part below the median and the part above it, the middle of the bottom half is called the first quartile. So it's 1/4 of the way through the distribution. It's between your minimum and your median. On the other end, you have your third quartile. This one is 3/4 the way through, and it's halfway between your median, your middle, and your maximum. So they're all in order here, from the smallest, the minimum, to the max, the largest, the quartiles, and the median. The 5-number summary is the list of the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. So it's just listing out all 5 of those numbers. And the reason that it even has its own name is called the 5-number summary is because those 5 numbers give you a pretty good sense of what kind of data you're going to be dealing with. How small does it get? How big does it get? Where is the middle roughly? And where is the middle 50%? The part that's not near the bottom and not the part that's near the top, but kind of the middle chunk. How spread apart are they? So that's why the 5-number summary is a very useful set of information. So in the earlier example, we had this list of numbers. It's how many free throws people made. So all these different numbers of free throws. Whenever you're going to do the 5-number summary, the very first thing you need to do is put these numbers in order. So I'm going to look for my smallest number first and work my way up. And so I'll go ahead and say, okay, well 4 is my smallest number. Write that first. Then I have a 7 and a 9. So 4, 7, 9. And you keep working your way up until you've used up all the numbers. I'm going to pause the video and let you do that real quickly. Alright, so we've got all our numbers listed here in order. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for the middle. Now there's 15 values in this list, so the middle is going to be halfway, and if you take 15 divided by 2, you get 7.5. But remember that you're really looking for starting at 1, ending at 15, which means that you would actually have to subtract 1. And we can get real technical here about how to divide and count, but if you just make sure that you have the same number of values on the left as you do on the right, you'll find the median. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 numbers on this side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers on this side. I know that my median is going to be right here, my 8th number. So if you want to divide by 2 and round up, or you just want to make sure you count and say, okay, there's the same number on both sides, that's fine. Once we have the middle number, we're going to look at only the numbers on the left side. So only the numbers on this side here, and we're going to find the middle of that list. Well, we have 7 numbers over here, and so we're going to have 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and then our 1 in the middle. That is going to be our first quartile. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Of our upper 7 values, 1, 2, 3 on one side, 1, 2, 3 on the other. We're going to find the middle of the right side, and that middle is going to fall at 19. Finally, we're going to find the lowest and highest numbers, the min and the max. And the lowest is 4 and the highest is 24 in this case. So to write in all of our values now, our minimum is 4, our max is 24. Our first quartile is 11, and our third is 19, and our median, the number in the middle, is 16. You'll notice that these numbers are not necessarily balanced. We have a gap of 7 over here, and only a gap of 5 from the third quarter to the max. The median and quarter 3 are 3 apart, whereas quarter 1 and the median are 5 apart. That can happen a lot of times, especially when you're looking at smaller lists of numbers, but it can always occur in any distribution where those gaps are not always going to be the same size, and that's okay. Let's look at a slightly different distribution here for number example 2, and this one only has 5 values in it. We want to go through this process with a few different lists to see what can happen if maybe you have an even number of values or things don't work out as nicely as they did up above. So let's put the distribution in order. We have a 65 first, and after that 89, 134, the 200, and then the 214. So once we've used all those up, we need to figure out what is our median. I always like to start with the middle. It's always a safe number to start with. And since there's 5 numbers, we're going to have 2 on either side of the middle, and our median is going to be 134. Now, our max and min are also pretty easy. We just look for the biggest number and the smallest number. And so in this case, we have 214, and we have 65. But if we look at now the lower half, the numbers below our median of 134 down here, which of these is considered the middle? We only have 2 numbers, and the middle is going to be somewhere in between them. Now, whenever you have an even number of things like this down in your list, and you can't find a single number in the middle, you take the 2 numbers that are closest to the middle, in this case 65 and 89, and you find the average. By the average, I mean you need to add them together and divide by 2. So I take my 65 plus my 89, and when I add them together, and I divide by 2. And the reason I divide by 2 is because I had 2 numbers, and I want to find the average. In this case, the average is 77. So my quarter 1 value is going to be 77. And you do the same thing on the other side. You have 200 and a 214, and you want to figure out where the middle is. Now, I can, in my head, say, oh, well, halfway between 0 and 14 is 7, so I'm looking for 207. But let's just confirm that our formula, add them together, divide by 2, truly works. And it does. We get 207, which makes sense because 207 is the average of 200 and 214. So 207 is our quarter 3. Last example, we're given 6 numbers. We need to put them in order first. That's always our first step. So we have our 2, our 9, our 11, 13, and you can always cross these out as you go, and then our 14 and our 20. If you're going to put the distribution in order, first thing you're going to realize is that the middle does not exist. There are 3 numbers on bottom, 3 numbers on top, and the middle is kind of split. So the way the middle is going to work is we're going to include both of these temporarily in the middle and try to figure out what is the average of 11 and 13. By looking at it, I think most of us can say, well, I know what's halfway in between 11 and 13. It's 12. But, again, just to make sure this works, we add the 2 numbers together and divide by 2. And sure enough, we do get 12. find our third quartile, we're going to remember that our list does not actually take away those two values that we used for our median. So as far as looking for values below the center, all three of these are now included as options. So the one that we're going to choose for our quarter 1 is exactly halfway on the lower part, 1 on each side. That's 9. And on the right side, the middle value is 14. So 9 and 14. And then finally, the min is always our lowest number, and the max is always our